Good. Hey, Jane, how are you? All right. So, guys, I thought I would pop back on moving into June in just another day, right? And I need to get some things cleaned out of the cookie studio so we can start on all of our fresh June projects. And I thought while I was doing that, that I would show you something because people have a lot of trouble when they're starting out with cookies on icing consistency. So I thought it might just be easier while I was just doing a couple of quick bags if I showed you something in person. So a lot of times, yeah. Hi, Lisa. Yes, and maybe a third time, Lisa, if I get this one done quick enough, because this one's not a long video. But my name is Amy. I'm the owner of Seriously Sweet on Davis Street. It's a little boutique bakery that we do mostly custom work right now. Due to COVID, we haven't opened up our walk-in storefront again yet. So I thought I would pop on because a lot of times when I'm doing a video, you guys ask me what is the consistency of that icing. And there's a common method that people use that's seconds. And they quote you seconds. Sorry, I thought I saw someone at the door. They quote you a second and a second icing, like an 18-second icing, a 35-second icing. And what they're telling you is that's how many seconds that once the icing has been piped on the cookie, you start counting from that point, and it lets you know how many seconds it takes for the icing to smooth out on its own without doing anything to it. And a lot of times I'm doing projects. I love doing 3D projects, things that need put together or kind of cemented together, that type of stuff. And so I'll say to you, oh, it's toothpaste consistency icing, because for new cookiers, they need a visual of what does 35-second icing look like, right? So I thought I would try to show you while I was mixing it. And then, hey, Bobby, and then we're going to pipe a few little cookie pops. So I want you to see this. This is stiff peak that does not fall over. So let me show you what I mean by that. And in a minute, we'll do the black color right after this. And when we do the black color, I'll take it through 2 stages for you. But you see this icing is super, super thick. It has that dullness to it, like you don't see the shine of the water that's in it really. Down here, you can, like right along this handle, you can see that shiny, that's where water. Hey, Jeremy, how are you? So you can see the shine, you see a lot of water. This has had a lot of powdered sugar added to it. So when I'm piping things for 3D projects, or I'm doing things like flower petals, things of that nature, I go until I think it looks right. And then I put a little bit more sugar, like another tablespoon, just to be extra sure so I don't have to unbag and rebag. But what I want you to see is this. Do you see what happens with this icing? I've thoroughly stirred in the powdered sugar, right? And I'm not whipping air into it, right? When I'm adding my sugar, I'm doing a motion like this to keep the air down. And then I'm just scraping around my bowl, bringing it to the center. And when I bring the spatula up, do you see that? Do you see how stiff that is, how it's not falling over? So when I am saying toothpaste consistency icing to you, I'm looking at 2 things. I'm looking at, hey, Rachel, I'm looking at the icing that it's got that dull matte finish to it already because the powdered sugar has absorbed so much of the water. And then I'm looking at that peak. It doesn't move. It does not move at all. Now, I'm going to go ahead and bag this one. Hey, Melissa. So I'm going to bag this, but just this quantity. And this is just one of those little bowls that I told you about that I like to use from the dollar store because it's easy for me to hold when I need to get to a good stiff icing. I'm going to bag this in 2 bags. And the reason being is I do not want a lot of pressure. I don't want to have to create a lot of pressure on my hand right in this area while I'm piping this super thick icing, because obviously it's a little harder to pipe because it is a really thick consistency. So, and I'm just using some cute little bag clips. I don't remember where I got these. I think I got them off Amazon. Possibly they came from AliExpress, but it's been over a year, so I'm not really sure where they are from. So this is as much when I'm doing the super stiff consistency icing like this. Hey, Judy, how are you? Hey, Lorraine. Hey, Barbie. when I'm doing this thick consistency, I don't put more in my small bags than this because I don't want to, first of all, hold the weight. It's a really heavy icing when you're holding it, and I don't want to hold more weight in my hand than necessary, and I don't want to have to squeeze more icing from here to here than necessary when it's this thick. So I've already mixed up this beautiful yellow, and this is also that consistency of icing. This is, let's see, what did I have on hand tonight? This is Sunshine Yellow from Cookie Countess, and this is a combination of 3 different greens. Sorry. I had avocado, I had neon green, and then I added just a little bit of forest green. I don't need these to match. I just wanted something that I thought looked good with my yellow to read sunflowers. Read, hey, Denise, how are you? That it would read a bright sunflower colors when you looked at it. So let me go ahead and get this out of the bowl. The other thing that I encourage you guys to do, and this is not going to be a super long video tonight, but this, I want to encourage you to not create a lot of dishes. I don't know how you guys all feel about that, but it's not my life's ambition to stand at the sink and clean tips and clean bowls and run hot water down the drain after I've made royal icing for hours on end. So I try to limit, and one of the ways that I limit the creation of dishes when I am coloring is by going from light colors to dark colors. And the darker color will absorb the little bit. You can see there's not much left in this bowl at all, right? And not much on my spatula. So what will happen is the next darker color, which we're going to thicken up the black to make the center of our sunflower pops. Yeah, ditto. Yeah, I know. It's bad, isn't it? It's bad when the thing that you love to do becomes like, do I really want to do that? Because I know I'm going to create all of this extra work at the end. So you've got to find ways to do the thing that you really love to do without creating the headache too, right? Yeah, Jeremy, dishes and dishes and dishes. I got it. Beginning and no end, just dishes. Well, my dishwasher is not hooked up yet because we have a new dishwasher and I don't want to do all this by hand. So I'm just going to keep it simple tonight, and I'm going to show you these tricks as we go, because sometimes, you know, it just, maybe you haven't thought of doing it this way, or maybe you saw it, but you were afraid to try it. But if you see it in person while I'm doing it, you might take the plunge and give it a try. Now, this is the icing I used earlier today in the, my sister is going to kill me if she's on here. The cryptocurrency video where I made the Shiba Inu cookie. God, if she's on here, she's going to get so upset because for a whole hour she kept saying, I can't believe you can't remember this. But anyway, it's not my jam, cryptocurrency. So here we go. This is a very thin icing. This is an icing that I use. It takes it about 18 seconds to go totally flat. Can you see that? How it's just running off of there. So this is, I don't like to use separate outline and flood. I like to just use one icing to do both. So this is probably an 18-second icing. Okay, so this needs a lot of powdered sugar to get to where we're going tonight. Did I get it right, Jeremy? I'm so glad. Shiba Inu, yeah. So I have done this a while. So if you need to measure it, go a tablespoon at a time so you don't overdo it. But I've done this a while, so I know about what I need to put in there in order to get it to consistency, because what we're using tonight is 3 of the 35-second or toothpick consistency icings. We're going to be using this bright yellow, what did I say this was? Sunflower yellow. And this is a combination of some greens that I just kept turning one bag of green into the next bag. So we're going to use this up tonight. And then we're going to have the black. And the reason we need the black is because I can't believe I got through a whole video a few hours ago and I didn't use any diamond dust or candy. We did discuss it. So I feel like I still brought it to the table for you. Hey, Shayna, how are you doing? I just saw that popped up. I'm sorry I missed you. Okay, so I brought it to the table and we discussed it, but I didn't actually use it. So I am going to be using these. Oh, let me get it right in front of my face because I have the virtual wall behind me. And that is actually the sprinkle wall from my store, but I'm not at my store. I've created a virtual background with it. This is black nonpareils. Hopefully Marlon would be proud of me as well for saying that properly. We tend to call them nonpareils, but they're nonpareils. Okay, so we're going to be using this to make the center of our yes, I was in diamond dust withdrawal, totally, because I thought about a place I could use it on the cookie, but then I was like, no, I better just do exactly what she wanted me to do for that. So no puree, is that how you say it's no, not non? I thought it was, okay, so we'll go with no puree. Thank you, Jeremy. So this is no purees, black, the little tiny ones. We're going to make our sunflower centers out of this. And one of the reasons we're doing it, it's not just so I can get a candy on the cookie. I like putting candy on the cookie because it brings something fun to the cookie. Kids love it when they see candy on a cookie, but I also want to bring something, when I'm bringing a candy to the cookie like this, I want to bring something that's not going to bother anyone's teeth, no matter what their age group is, right? Young kid or an older adult. So these are very soft. They dissolve very easy. But as you can see from the detail just that you're seeing in my little container that I keep them in, they're going to give a lot of pop and texture. And when it's on the little mini cookie, there's no doubt this is supposed to be a sunflower when you look at these little pops. Okay, so someone asked a second ago about sifting this. I sifted the powdered sugar before it went into that little container. And I do that probably twice a week because I just keep that small container. And then I've got one of those little food safe seal packs in it to make sure it stays, even though it's airtight, I just feel safer about it. You know, the little gel packets that you get in the sprinkle bottles? Well, whenever my sprinkle bottle's empty, I save those and then I use them in my small containers of powdered sugar. So, you know, I sifted a couple of them, but I'm already using pre-sifted powdered sugar. So truthfully, I don't know if it makes a difference. I just feel better about it. Since it's going to be used for such fine detail work, that container is always the sugar that I add in to the icing when I'm thickening it. So I just feel safer if that one has already, you know, even though it's pre-sifted, to sift it again. So you can see, right, how I'm working this down just to make sure that it's all dissolved. Now, take a look at this before we do our next step. Do you see how the light is hitting that and it's still really shiny? So there's no way this is going to do what I need it to do. It's going to sink. It could possibly crater. And it is thick. It'll stay on my spatula, but it's not dry enough and it's not thick enough. Does that make sense? All right, so I'm just going to spread it out, make sure that I'm good to go. I'm going to try to incorporate as much of the green that is on the bowl, because you see, I just want you to see it really doesn't matter as long as you go from light to dark. It's really not going to affect your colors if there's not a bunch of icing in the bowl, right? It's just going to reabsorb what's there and it disappears. Like, you can't tell, other than the fact that there's green on this edge of my spatula, you really at this point don't know that there was green in here before we did the black. So it will save you in the long run on your dishes. Okay, so let's put a little bit more in there. And I'm going to grab some from a second container here because that's not going to quite be enough. And before I get all the way to the end, I'm going to show you. Now, on any given night, I would have about 12 baby spoons in this little work area that I have. But I think I used them all and took them to the store the other day so that I could do everything at the store and do all the sanitation and all that stuff. I just don't like stuff sitting around too long. I feel like even if I haven't used it, that I don't want to keep it around. So if something's been in one of my mason jars, that's how I keep my things organized on my work table, just some old mason jars. I probably should explain that too. I love old mason jars, like the old blue ones, the old green ones, the ball jars, the Kerr jars. I love all of those. I have collections of shark's teeth stored in them. I have flower arrangements in them. And then I decided, you know what? I spend so much time at my candy workstation. I'm going to pull out some of the ones I'm not using for anything, and I'll use them to organize things. So now I may have done too much sugar. We'll see. I don't know. I got a little carried away when I was talking to you, but I want to show you how you work it in. And if you need to, if you have gone too much on the powdered sugar, I wouldn't recommend this if you're doing this to actually make it a large volume of the icing on the cookie if you go too far. But if you're just doing like detail work, like what we're about to do, you could just go back and put in, if it's too dry, you know, you're in a cycle now of too much sugar or not enough sugar. So if I went a little heavy-handed on that last one because I didn't measure it, then here's how I would fix that problem. And let me show you, right? I don't want to add water to this, right? This is kind of the key for me. I don't want to put water in there. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of an existing bag of icing, like literally just a little bit. It'll be enough to bring it to the proper consistency. Let's talk about Dairy Queen. Let me see. Hold on just a second. Nonpareils, the little black nonpareils that we're going to use. Yes. Let's see. Yep. I saved those, you guys. Those little food safe gel things, save them because you never know what you're going to need them for. And I find them particularly handy to put in with my royal icing transfers when I make them. Okay, so still not enough. You can see how still too dry. Now, the reason I put the icing in is because I don't want to get in the cycle where, oh, you're very welcome. I don't want to get in the cycle of where I'm doing water, sugar, water, sugar, water, sugar. And if you go back to doing the water, even if you do it with a spray bottle, it is, it's going to change the flavor and consistency of the icing. So if you do go too thick like what I just did, then just grab a bag of icing from the same batch and add some of the flood consistency back in. And you can see I'm just doing basically a squirt or a tablespoon at a time. And I think we might need one more after this. Now, I would normally just have left it at the other consistency, but on a sunflower middle, you know how they have that cool middle and the sunflowers, each of the sunflower seeds that's down in the middle on a sunflower is rounded. So we need our nonpareils to, we need that to, we need these nonpareils when they're attached to the center poof that we're going to make to look like that, where you can actually see the curve. So we need them to not just sit on top of this icing. We want them to kind of go into it slightly, but we don't want them to get absorbed into it. I hope that makes sense. If you try the technique, then you'll definitely know what I'm talking about. So that's another important reason to just add back in base icing. And I think we're going to be okay after this one. I don't want to go too much thinner. Also, it's important not to go too dry because we were literally almost at the consistency there where I could have put on gloves and started working this in my hands and I could have made a royal icing putty. I also am not worried about adding that white in here. Do you see how it cut my color a little bit? I'm not terribly concerned about that because I wanted originally to use brown under the black, but then I had the black mixed up already. So I thought we'll just use the black because, and the reason why that's important is because I wanted to have a different look, like underneath the black nonpareils, I wanted a lighter color because then that on that same little item, then I've got, you know, the raised center, and then I've got that rounded nonpareil. So it looks like the tip of a sunflower seed, you know, because when you pull those out, they're rounded at the top and teardrop at the bottom. And it would also have that, yes, that's right, Allison. That's how you say it, but it's spelled nonpareil, how you know, we say it most of the time. Anyway, so I wanted to have that little bit of undertone in a different shade, but close. Like I wouldn't do it with white because the white would show through. Those little nonpareils are not going to be so close together. They're not going to be so close together that you won't see what's under it. So it'd be really neat if it's just like a little bit different tone. So here, I think I'm going to put just a little bit more, and then I think we're good to go. I think this will be the last one. But did you see? I know it can be tempting to put a whole bunch in there, stir once and bag it, but you really, this is a good lesson because you have to work in increments. If you do too much, then you're just in that cycle where you're back and forth, where if you do it like this, you know, a little bit at a time, you can feel it. Once you've made a lot of icing, sugar cookie icing, royal icing, glaze, whatever medium it is that you work in, buttercream even. When you want to pipe flowers, each of those icings, yeah, that's perfect. Now, do you see what happened here when I went down and I pulled this up? Do you see that it kept a stiff peak, but it curled over? That's what we call like, that's a trademark thing for Dairy Queen soft serve ice cream. That little tip on their ice cream cone that goes over like that, that's actually a trademark thing. So you can look at that on any of their logos and see what that is. So this is just a little bit thinner. Do you see how it curls over just a little? It's going to do what we need it to do because we're going to be attaching something to it. We need it to be slightly damp so it'll still catch hold of the little candy beads. Yeah, I just changed what we're going to call them. So you need to let it to be slightly damp, more than the green that we just bagged, so that we can, sorry, this is going to be noisy for a second. So let me just pull it over here while we're talking. And I'll refocus the camera in just a second for you. So we need it to be slightly damp because we want it to catch a hold of the little candies when we dip it in the candies. So that's great. But we want it to be stiff enough that it's not going to sink into itself or have a lot of liquid in it. So we know we're not going to get craters because we want that nice puffy round sunflower center. I hope that helps. If anybody has a question, just type it over there. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can go look at their logo, Jeremy, and see what it is, because that is a trademark thing for them. I didn't know that until last year. I can't remember why I learned that, but I'm sure it had something to do with cookies. I'm sure one of the fabulous cookie artists that I've been following dropped that tidbit of information into my life. I just can't remember who right now, but if anybody's on here and they know who, because I was in a cookie group or a class or something with you, and you know who said it, it's perfectly fine to jump in the comments and give them credit. Whenever I can remember where something... Girls, that's my pups. They're actually in the kitchen, and it's still that noisy. And you are welcome for the videos. I love doing live videos for you guys. I just want to encourage you to... do you see this, what I'm doing? This is, let me see if I can do it in front of myself. That's helicoptering. This is a super, super thick icing. Do not do that unless, yes, Gianna, yes, too much water. If your icing is too loose, like even looser than a normal flood, it's definitely going to crater because your water is taking up part of the volume of your icing. So if you have a really wet icing and you go ahead and ice the cookie, a lot of the volume in that cookie is water, and that tends to be when you get craters because that water dries, evaporating, and so you've got those spaces. So if it's not drying fast enough where your crust stays up, then it's going to sink in the middle. So it has a lot to do with it. It's not the only thing that causes cratering. There's some other things that can affect it too, but yes, water is a big deal to do with cratering, the consistency of your icing. Okay, so you're seeing I'm just knotting those, right? So I'm going to put the larger of these really thick bags just over here out of the way. And we're going to work with these colors and this candy. Okay, so I'm going to set these here. They'll stay in frame. If you're wondering how I was bagging my icing, this is from the dollar store. It's just a heavy bottom. It's got a heavy weight on the bottom. It's just a dollar store champagne glass. This fits. The reason I started using this, you guys, is because, you know, I have trouble here sometimes because I ice so many hundreds of cupcakes a week. You know, we're a little bit over 1,000 on the cupcakes and the cookies and doing royal icing and all that. It works my hand out here. So I've found a couple workabouts that help me just keep the pressure off my hand so I don't damage my hand for the long term. But this is one of them. By using this size glass instead of like a wide opening on a vase, or using hey Jen, hey Charlotte, how are you doing tonight? Instead of using a mason jar to do my icing, or a vase, something that would allow me to get the bag up taller with a larger opening to scoop into, it forces me to only create a bag of icing this size, right? So when I found this, I got it for a different reason, but then I couldn't find my other jar to put icing in that night. I used this and realized this is actually the weight that I prefer to hold and the size bag I prefer to hold. So it's just a workabout. You don't have to do it. There's lots of other ways to bag your icing. I'm sure there's lots of videos out there. Now, tonight, I'm going to show you something really fun. Hey, Melinda, how are you doing? Hi, Priscilla. So I'm going to show you something really fun. So I didn't use diamond dust earlier. So I'm going to show you something because during the San Antonio Frosting Creators Virtual Day of Sharing, I created that 3D balloon, and the balloon basket sat on a field of grass and had a little field of sunflowers, the little sunflower pops. So I'm going to show you how to do those sunflower pops, okay? But what I'm going to show you is what someone asked me about afterwards, because I didn't put diamond dust on them in that video. But then when I did a sunflower for something later, I put diamond dust on the petals, but I used something different than the diamond dust, but in the same family. So let me show you what I'm talking about. This is by Sugar Art. This is the one called 10 Karat Gold, and it's diamond dust. And this is 100% edible. Right? You can see that right there. I hope you can. Let me lift it up a little higher. So this is 100% edible. So we don't have to have the debate tonight about edible, 100% FDA approved edible versus non-toxic. Okay. We're just going to skip right over that. And then we're going to look at this. This is 100% edible food grade glitter. This is called Tinker Dust. Let me get the light. Let me block the light right there. Can you see that? This is bright gold. And it's by Bakell, BAKELL.com. And I just have gotten, they're in California, and I've gotten several colors from them recently. I was prepping for some stuff for Christmas. So I got, I think I got red and green and gold, like Christmas red, Christmas green and golden. So you can see, let me just show you these. And then you can decide what you like, because I think, let me get the glare off and you can see the Bakell brand is just a little bit, maybe a little darker tone to the yellow, not a lot, barely noticeable, but it does show up a little bit differently on the cookies. So I want you to see these two products side by side. This is not a situation for me where I would only ever use this or only ever use this, because they look different on the cookie. They're both 100% edible and food safe. So that would not be a decision for me if I was making a cookie for a customer. It's not like I would have one on hand because, say, it's shinier, but I keep another one on hand for people that don't want to go the non-toxic route. They're both 100% edible food grade glitter. They look different on the cookie though. So tonight, when we first do our cookies, we're going to do some of the sunflower petals with both of these. I'll hold them up. You can see what they look like on the same consistency icing on the color icing, right? So you can actually see a true comparison, and that way you don't have to buy them both and then decide what you want. Now, if you want to just save some time, they're going to get used at some point on Tuesday. So you might want to get them both. I don't know. I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm really good at spending my own money. I don't want to become really good at spending yours. You know what I mean? All right. So this is so much fun. There are a lot of things that you can do to make cookie pops. So the point of my video tonight is not to show you the cookie pops. It's to go over what I mean when I'm talking to you about toothpaste consistency icing, and that I'm looking for that super stiff peak that doesn't move at all. It just stays straight up. So when I'm saying that to you and you're watching one of my tutorials, that's what I mean. I wanted you to see these colors together. It's a very simple color palette. And I wanted to explain to you why I wanted the center to be slightly lighter. You can't really tell, but in person, this is a good 3-4 shades lighter than this color. Okay. So I just want you to see those things and think through that when you're doing a project. Okay. Yeah, I have helped Sally spend a lot of money. Thank goodness Sally is in love with doing cookies, so she doesn't hold it against me. So funny, right? Hey, how are you doing? Okay, I don't know if I'm going to say your name right, but I want you to know that I know you're here. I think is it Maya Del Angel? Angela? Angel? Maybe you could phonetically put that on there for me, because I can't stand to get people's names wrong. You guys are important to me, and I feel like I should know how to say your name. So maybe give me some phonetic. Otherwise, I'm going to call you May the Angel all the time, okay? Which, if that's cool with you, that's fine with me. All right, so you don't need this. I'm going to show you how to cut. I'm going to call you May the Angel. Is that okay? So this is a tip 352. Get the glare off there. Can you see that? Yeah, there you go. 352. All right. So I call this the bird beak tip. It's just call you May. This is a bird beak. So on its side like this, you don't see it. So what I want you to do is take that and rotate it and imagine like a chicken pecking the ground to get food or something, right? So you'll be doing this sideways, but we're not going to use the tip tonight because remember, I don't want to clean this. So I'm going to show you how to cut your tipless bags to get this shape. Okay. But if you're not comfortable with that, wait, if you do scroll over her name, it says that. Well, maybe not here, maybe on her Facebook page. So I'll check it out on her Facebook page, Allison. That's a good point. I'm not going to use this tonight, but this is the tip that if you don't feel comfortable cutting the tipless bags to make a piping tip shape, then go with this. Okay. And you guys, I've got lots of videos up on how to do this where you put it in an outer sleeve so that you can switch from one color to the other, because we would be doing that tonight if I was going to do that, because yellow and green, we're going to use this same bird beak. Okay. So let me put that to the side. If my sister were here, this is where she would say, oh, all the technical terms are coming out, but it's true. I try to give it to you in language you'll understand. Also, when I call it something that's not normal, you guys tend to remember that when it's a little bit funny. So it's going to pop back to you when you need the knowledge, when you need that info to come back to you. So this is what we're going to make tonight. Let's pull one. Yeah, let's do this one. So this is just a cute little cookie made to be a sunflower pop. Okay, so you can see it's a cookie. And I always leave the back undone because I want people to know it's a cookie and not a cake pop. And please don't get mad at me, but I am not a cake pop fan. I don't know what it is about them. I don't like eating them. I don't like making them. They're just not my thing. But this is great because this is an item that coming up for your summer parties, you're not going to have to worry about this being out in the heat. This is an item you can put outside. No problem. It's small, so you don't have to worry about the kids having too much. If you want to do a sunflower basket for, say, the 4th of July, if that's going to be your next barbecue. So it's just a little circle cutter. This is a 1/2 inch. My recommendation for you would be to do these on a 1-inch cookie, just because that seems to be perfect for like a popper, like a 2-bite. So when we make mini cupcakes, we don't really call them mini cupcakes. We call them cupcake poppers, because it's really it's a large popper that you can have all at once, right? But it's really meant to be a little 2-bite deal. So I made these super small so that they would be proportioned properly to my basket for the tutorial for the the San Antonio Frosting Creators Virtual Day of Sharing. Hey, if you are still on here, will you pop a link in there to the page? Because it looks like it's mostly cookiers on here with me tonight. So pop that link in, because you can still join that group and all those tutorials are still in there. And there is some amazing artwork in there from that show. I was just blown away. I mean, I haven't even gotten to rewatch all of them yet, but I mean, blown away with the artwork that was in there. And I really would love to learn how to work with isomalt, but I only do it in very small quantities. But I really loved the sculpture that Sydney put in there. So if anybody's on here that can pop the link into that group, I would love it if you would do that. And you can watch all those videos at any time. But anyway, so this is my normal sugar cookie recipe. I didn't cook it longer. In fact, I cooked it a little bit less because these are smaller bits, but they were my 1/4 inch thickness. I just used a round cutout. I would recommend that you go with a larger cutout, like say this size. Okay, this is a 1 inch, this is a 1/2 inch. So you can see the difference, but so that you don't have to make the decision, right? There you go. Now, do you see on this one, can you see that little bit of a brown undertone under the black? In person, it's noticeable, so it gives you great differentiation. This one is black under the black. So you can take a look at that right now and decide which one you might want to do. I personally like the two-tone. Thank you for dropping that in there. I like the two-tone because it just in that little space, it gives you even more texture and dimension to your cookie, right? So let's talk about something else. I'm not going to get into all of the things about doing cookie pops because there's a lot of great videos out there. I'm just going to talk to you about doing these baby bite ones. Okay. So this is not what I would do if I was doing a great big cookie pop or something like that. Okay. So here's my little cookies. I popped them out. I cooked them. When they came out of the oven, I had two food safe gloves on. Yeah, I did. I joined that group, Carol, the semi-torch team. I joined that after because I'm just so mesmerized that she can even do that and how much you all do. Oh, good. Jeremy's got his side up too. Jeremy, in the comments, tell him what you do in there, what's in the Etsy store, okay? Okay, so this is just baked, and I baked it. Normally, I bake my cookies about 14 minutes. This was baked at 12 minutes. I wanted to get the little crispy on the bottom, and I'll tell you why, because this is almost like the cookie. It's not burnt, but it's almost like the cookie gets a caramelization flavor to it. So on the pops, because it's a lot of icing relative to the cookie, I needed the flavor of the cookie to be a little bit more pronounced. Otherwise, it gets lost in all that fancy royal icing that's going on it, right? Because we're going to make all those petals. So instead of just having a 3-inch cookie or something, you'd have a thin layer of icing that's probably only 20% of the cookie, maybe even 15%, depending on whether it's a flood on flood or whether you did 3D work on the top of the cookie or 2D work, or you know what I mean, like to make a realistic flower. But on here, there's so much icing on it, it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio of what you end up with. So taking that into consideration, that's why I'm encouraging you to really not make these smaller than the 1-inch. Okay, so this comes out of the oven. It's hot. I have 2 gloves on, and I immediately take a toothpick. And I'm going to talk to you about this really quick. So I took this toothpick, and it's pointed on both ends. And I just worked it into the cookie. And when it's hot, you have to do this right when they come out of the oven. 2 gloves on the part you're going to grab the cookie with, because then your hand won't be so heat sensitive. And you literally just work it into the cookie like this, right? And I let it sit until it's totally cool. Okay, then I take this out, and there is a reason that I do this. I'm going to explain that. So if I forget because somebody asked me a question or something, make sure that I circle back to it. Okay, so using forest green airbrush color and an airbrush, I made a cookie pop. I think I had 12. I can't stand little crummies on my table. I've laid out 12 of these, gloved hand on one end, and I just sprayed them with airbrush color because I wanted them. Can you see that? It's green. It's the same green that I'm using in the bag, only it's in airbrush form. So I just sprayed it and kept rolling them to let them dry. Okay, so the reason I don't want to put this stained stick in the cookie when it first comes out is because I don't want the color to come off the stick and transfer to the cookie while the cookie's hot, while the butter is still kind of hot in there. Do you know what I'm saying? Like any little liquid's going to pull it. Whereas if I put this in the cookie when the cookie is totally cooled off, if I work it back in here, none of that's going to transfer, right? And it's a toothpick, so you're good. I get the high quality ones. I've never had any trouble. If you really can't get with the idea of using a toothpick in your cookie pop, you can always use the baking straws. You would need to make your cookie a little bigger. So definitely you'd have to make the 1-inch size, and you'd need to make it a little thicker. And you probably need to flatten down the tip on the straw when you put it into the cookie when the cookie's warm. You could do that. You can even bake with the straw in the cookie. I don't bake with the wood in the cookie because I just worry about any kind of chemicals, any kind of chemical transfer happening when the wood is heated up, even though it's supposed to not have anything on it. I don't know. It's just a thing for me. I just worry about maybe something transferring when the heat of that hits the cookie, right? If it's baking the whole time in the oven. I would say this is those 4-inch. I don't have the container anymore, but this is like the 4-inch cocktail toothpicks that you would put like meat and cheese like up to here, and then just pick this up to eat off here. So I airbrushed it. It's dry. The cookie's now dry. I made the hole in the cookie. I'm putting the flat end of the cocktail stick. There you go. The flat end. I'm just rotating that into the cookie. So now I've got a nice cookie pop size to work on, right? Okay, so let's put that there. We're going to pipe one of these tonight. I want to show you something else that'll be super handy wherever you get your craft supplies at, whether it be at Walmart or Hobby Lobby or Michael's or online. Grab yourself one of these styrofoam floral arrangements. This is a 10-inch wide and it's about 2 inches tall. Can you see that? It's going to come wrapped in plastic. Just so you don't do what I did, go ahead and, I don't know, Jeremy. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't, but because it's airbrush color, it may, once it gets wet, it may of course wash off and go to a lighter color, right? So I'm not sure if you could use it on other wood and it would stay like a regular stain would, but I just wanted to knock off the blonde color of the toothpicks and get it more in line with what I wanted my pop to look like. So grab one of these and then go ahead and cover it with press and seal, right? And with the sticky side down, and make a surface on here. You can see I started using this to make like unicorn horns and the unicorn ears when I was doing those and doing some work on them. And so I got all of that gold, the TMP gold is all under there, and I did not cover it before I started using it. So now what I do is in between each project, I take the press and seal off and recover. But these are like $7 or $8 for this little stand. But see, what's handy about this is I can do a whole field of sunflowers and just pop them straight in my little board to let them dry after I pipe them. And I have lots of room to spread them out, which is why I recommend getting the bigger one, because you don't want to put stuff too close together. So let's jump back to the pop that we're going to do right now. Before we get into that, I'm going to turn my bag. Can you see the seam? I've got the seam up. Well, to make the bird beak, this is the most reinforced part of the bag right there because it's where 2 layers are pinched together. So I'm going to flatten my bag with the seam on one side. All right, and let me try to show you this on camera. I'm just kind of pushing the icing back up into the bag from that area. Let's see if you can see this. I'll turn it this way for you. Let's see. All right, can you see that okay? And I think the camera's in focus. Now, keeping in mind, I want a tip that's roughly this size. So if you're uncomfortable with doing this, the first place to start with this is to hold the tip up next to the bag so that you actually know how far back you want that V to be. So, right, we want our V to be there and then come forward on the bag. So here we go. Hopefully this will work tonight. I do this a lot. I don't expect to have a problem, but you never know. Okay, so you can see I've just created the bird beak in the tipless piping bag that will not require washing later. Okay, so let's get all 3 of these. The black one, we're doing the center with, so you don't need to cut the bird beak. You can just go down to the bottom. I always put my seam facing the ceiling just because I feel like even though I cut with these finer, sharper scissors, I feel like I get a better circle on the end, more like a number 2 or number 3 piping tip. You can certainly use piping tips. I've just gotten used to working without them. But there are times I use them always when I'm doing writing. What else do I use them for? If I want to do perfect little polka dots or like bead edging on the cookies, I always use them for that. But this is roughly cut to the width of a 2 or 3 inch tip. So we're just doing centers. So that's really all we need for tonight. Now, that little tip fell off. And do you see it went on my hand? Can you see it on my hand? If you don't stop and find that as you're going, that's going to end up in somebody's cookie. So always stop and find it. And I have a little trash can off to the side that I put all of that in. Okay, we need another bird beak. We need to make it look like a 352. Also, you guys, I love tip 67 for doing sunflowers, for doing the petals and the leaves. It's a 67. It has like a split in the middle of a tip cut like this, and I love it, okay? So I'm going to turn this one again. The seam is on the side. We know roughly how far up we want to cut. I'm using super sharp sewing scissors. And you see I'm not having any trouble cutting my bag. It's because I'm using really good scissors. You can't use cruddy craft scissors for this if they're not sharp scissors. So you see I have another bird beak right there. Good. So we've got this together. We're going to do this a couple different ways tonight, because I want to show you the diamond dust, but we're not going to stay on camera forever, right? So let's do this first. So let's see. And I'm going to go ahead and switch the stem because I want it to be a little taller. This is also great because it feels like you're using the, what's it called? The flower nail. When you're using these, it feels like you're using a flower nail because you're spinning it. You're just not using a flat surface, right? So if you're used to working like that, this is not going to bother you at all. So I'm going to pull 3 of these out and have them ready. The thing I'm going to show you first is doing the center. But I want to show you the diamond dust too, so that you have the comparison and you know what you might want to order. Here's the thing. By using the diamond dust, I can only do the yellow color and then use the diamond dust. Then I've got to let that sit and completely dry before I go back and do what I'm going to show you how to do on this cookie. And the reason I have to do that is because if I do the diamond dust at the end, it's going to get all over the black and then it's not going to look right. So let's talk about the center. If I were not using diamond dust, I would just put this down and I would normally pipe exactly perpendicular to the cookie, and I'd be working the bag up and down so the tip is acting like my scribe so that I don't have to pick my scribe up, because I want to let gravity and the pressure of the piping make my perfect circle rather than outlining and flooding. So let me show you what I'm going to show it to you with my hand exactly like I'd normally make it, and then I'll spin it so you can see what I'm talking about. Then I'm going to show you one done from the side, and you can decide how you want to do that. So I'm right in the center of where I want my circle to be, and I'm just working. I'm holding it steady. I'm straight up and down, and I'm working the bag up and down. Okay, watch. You guys are going to love this. Look, it makes a perfect circle, and it's very stacked icing. It's not going anywhere. I can turn this thing upside down. I can shake it. Nothing's going to happen. Then I immediately take this into my dish of nonpareils, right? You can put them over a bead tray and then do what I'm doing, but these things bounce, so be prepared to clean them up. When I'm doing the project like this, I like to do it right into the container. Okay, look at that. Look at what a perfect little sunflower center. These also, by the way, make beautiful blackberries. If you want to make blackberry royal icing transfers ahead of time, these are perfect for that. Here's the other great thing. Let's just say that you're like, I don't really like where that's sitting. It's a really thick icing. You've put it into the, shake it, nothing will happen. No, nothing's going to happen, Jeremy. Look, I promise. Okay, so you can use this at this point. You can use your boo-boo stick, your thingamajiggy, your thumb, and look, if you want to, you can just tap that candy in there. But it's perfect, right? Look at that. So this is a really great thing to make instead of real blackberries. If you're decorating a cake and somebody wants like a blackberry vine or something, you can make these way ahead of time. And then you know how they paint them on wedding cakes and stuff? This is where you would use your gold diamond dust. You just spray it with gold diamond dust as it's drying, and then all you would have to do is pop it off your parchment and write onto the cake. But it's beautiful, right? Okay, now let's stop talking about how beautiful the center is. And we're going to pop right on over to have a paper towel in here. Yeah, because I know I like diamond dust, but I really don't want to clean it up from all over the table tonight. So let's put a paper towel down, okay, just to work on them, and move this out of the way. We're going to come back to this, okay? Let's set it to the side. We're going to start with our yellow bird beak, right? So I'm going to turn it like the bird is trying to eat food. Just imagine it like that. I'm holding it halfway up, so I only have to move icing from this point to this point, okay? Yeah, you could definitely make grapes. It makes good grapes. The yellow is beautiful for the center of white daisies. The little yellow nonpareils, they're great for that. So many things you can do with this. Okay, so let's come to this. I'm only not doing the center first because I want to put the gold diamond dust on here, okay? We have to move quickly though, because this is a drier icing, because it is the really thick icing. And because it's drier, we've got to get that diamond dust on there pretty quick, okay? Oh, you're welcome. Yep, get everybody to bed. We don't want any tired kids tomorrow. We'll see you later. Thank you. So I'm going to start here and watch. I'm just letting it attach. I'm giving it as much pressure for however wide I want the petal to be. And I'm doing wider petals on purpose. I like the smaller petals and more of them. I'm doing it wider because I want you to have a good surface to see what the diamond dust and the tinker dust both look like, okay? Now, can you see that some of them are side by side and a couple I've gone and put underneath, right? And you won't see what's right there in the middle. So if you did a little too much like I did, don't worry about it. I'm coming back and I'm putting petals in between those top petals. And I'm only going to do 2 rows because we want to get on with this and show you what the dusts are going to look like. I hope I'm staying up in frame for you here. All right, and see on the side how I've just made 2 rows? You could stop there if you want, okay? You don't have to do more, but with my icing being this consistency, I always think it's fun to have more rows. And when I stop piping, do you see how I'm kind of snapping my bag away? It's giving me that really cool dainty point. You don't have to worry about bagging these because you're doing them as a cookie bouquet. You're going to put them on something before they go. So it's not likely they're going to get scrunched up in a bag. So it's okay to be doing that extra little flair at the end there, okay? So let's put one right here on the stick. By making sure I attach the stick, it's firmly in the cookie, but then by doing a petal that's touching the cookie and the stick, that's going to make sure that nothing comes off of there, right? It's going to dry and it's going to be one piece. So let's start with Sugar Art Diamond Dust. If you don't have white and silver yet, probably you should get that soon. You're going to need it for Christmas. But let me just pipe this on this cookie. I'll hold it up and let you see it. Then we're going to pipe the petals. That was the diamond dust, 10 karat gold. Okay, look at that. Isn't that crazy how what that does to that cookie? It's so beautiful. And you see, because we didn't agitate the cookie. Yes, you guys, if somebody's asking about the black beads, I prefer the PME. It's been over a year since it's happened to me, but I used the Wilton black pearls to do eyeballs for something, and all those eyeballs bled into the icing. PME doesn't do that for some reason. Wilton may have fixed it. I don't know, but I have a bunch of PME, so I would use that. Now, these are not PME. These are from the dollar bags at Michael's, you know, where they have the baking aisle and they have all those little bags up. This is like 4 bags of the little ones. I can get them in bulk, 25 pounds, but I wanted to know what you guys could get and use that so you could see it, okay? So you see what that looks like. Isn't that gorgeous? All right, let's do the next one. Same thing. I'm going to clear the tip right here so I can make sure I'm going the correct direction, right? We want it to look like the bird is pecking. So we're going to start here, attach to the cookie, give it a lot of pressure, get a wide petal, and then we have that little snap so we can get that point. Also, I'm kind of coming up at an angle and off of the cookie, right? And that's going to make it look more realistic too, because that's actually how those inner sunflower petals look. I find it handy to keep a picture of a real item, a picture of whatever I'm actually... yes, that diamond dust is from Sugar Art. We're about to demo one that's new that I just recently got from Bakel, I think is how you say it. It's called Tinker Dust. I find it handy to do this way since we're going to be using the dust, because then when I come back to do the center, those petals are going to be already dried or crusted, and they're going to hold in that center more, okay? So I'm doing another row of petals in between the front petals. So I'm going to where the upper petals meet up, and I'm piping another petal, okay? And again, right here at the bottom is where I'm making sure that my royal icing is touching both my cookie and my little toothpick or my straw, whatever I'm comfortable using. And I just want to put another row right across here. I want you to have a good surface. But do you see what I mean about how you can go crazy like this, right? And have just tons of icing on this cookie. Do you see already this is way more icing to cookie ratio than what it would normally be? Right here on the back, I'm just going to pipe some icing again and come a little bit down to make sure that stem is not going to come out. All right, now we're going to use our new dust. Let me move this over because I don't want any chance that they get on top of each other. These are both FDA approved or 100% edible, so they're both FDA approved. This is, let me lift it so you can see it just in case you are just jumping on. This is the company. This is what it's called. It's called Bright Gold, and it's Tinker Dust, okay? So you can blow that up. Okay, here we go. Let's see what this one looks like. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. I just love that. And I'm just doing very short bursts, you guys. I'm not getting glitter everywhere. I'm just doing very short bursts. So let's take a look at what these look like. Okay, so we've got sugar art in this one, and we've got the Bakel in this one, and I'm going to lift them as close as I can and let the camera adjust for you. And let me do this. I'm going to see if I can block some of the light so you can get a better view. Can you see that a little better right there? Okay, so just my opinion, this one is a finer grade coming out, so it's more like pearlized looking. This one is more like glittery pieces, like you can see in the center of the cookie. So they're both going to have plenty that you can use them for if you decide to get them both in. And also, I love them both. They're both great. Also, this one, the one that's called Bright Gold, this is just a little bit darker than the 10 karat gold from Sugar Art. Aren't those gorgeous? I mean, both of them are gorgeous. So here's the thing. Now I can't do my center because I can't dip the center into the little bucket without it sticking to all the rest of this. So I'm going to pop these off onto my little container, let them dry overnight. I'll finish them up in the morning after the petals are dry. I'll add the wet center. So we're going to come back to this one, okay, that we already did a center. We're going to purge the tip on the yellow bag. Again, going at the cookie like a bird would peck the ground for food. We're going to start right up next to that, and we're going to work upward. Do you see that? How I'm doing that? Let me try to turn it on its side so you see if you can see it. And by working the bag up and down, that's how I'm getting those really cool ridges on the petals. Let me turn that just a little bit. Can you see that? Let me turn it that way. Yeah, there you go. Let me stop there. So see the ridges? So let me see if I can do this from here. It's so close, I'm not even sure I can see it. But by working the bag back and forth, that's how I get those cool ridges and that extra texture. All right. Hey, so let's keep working right there. And we're going kind of upward. These petals, you can even like literally pull a petal up over. Now, if you do that and you go a little crazy, just take your scissors and cut that little bit off. Right? Because it really wouldn't be that long. That isn't what the petal would really look like, but you can definitely get away with it still being there because you can have it, you know how they curve up over the center sometimes. So there we go. We've got a very natural looking little sunflower. We're going to come in between where those petals are, and we're going to make the other petals. And that's how we make the second row. I'm going to finish this one, and then we're going to add leaves to this one. I did a really cool project last year for April that has the virtual cookie club. She's Sweet and Saucy Life. So I got to be one of the guest instructors for Cookiers Live, which was a virtual event last year. And I did a 3D. You know, I'm going to say I did this in the wrong event, but I'm almost positive that it was the VCC that I did a 3D cookie event, and I did a hay wagon and a sunflower background, and I showed some edible paper, edible images that had a sunflower field. So that's all on my Facebook page if you want to go back and look at that. Oh, hello, Argentina. So look at how beautiful. Okay, these are not for somebody. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what's going to happen if you forget and do your center first, then pipe your petals, and then go, oh, I want to use diamond dust, or I want to use Tinker Dust, okay? I'm going to use the Tinker Dust. I'm going to show you what happens. It's by no means is it ugly or something I would throw away. I just want you to see what happens in case you can think of another use for it. So this is why I would not do this if I did not want the gold on the center, okay? Even if I try to turn it, you know how this dust is. It just kind of goes where it wants to go, right? So I'm staying very close to the petals. I'm doing very short bursts from the pump. But do you see how it's just that little bit, and it's still, because it's floating around, it's up into the black there. Can you see it? Let me show you on camera. So it doesn't look bad. You just lose some of the effect of having that black and the brown underneath. But look at that, you guys. Isn't that beautiful? And then on the back, people are going to be like, oh, how'd they make that? Well, it's obvious it's a cookie, right? Once you flip it over. Isn't that pretty? So this will be something to start planning so you have some fun fall projects. You know how to color the sticks. You could use food gel, thin it out. Mine was not $38. No. This may be a pump that I bought on my own for like $2.50 from somebody, the pump. And I bought a jar of this, but when I bought this, yeah, hi Karen, I am live again. When I bought mine, it was like $10 for the thing that went in here, and I only put one in here. So wherever you're seeing that, either the price has gone way up or there's something going on there, because mine was not that expensive. I would have stayed just with straight sugar art if it had been that high. So you can, what was I going to tell you? Okay, if you don't have an airbrush, I just like the airbrush because it put down a thin layer of the color. You can paint this. So, right, just use a food safe brush, use some of your food gel, thin it out a little bit with Everclear water, and then just paint these, you know, just stain them that way. And I would do it, of course, on top of some press and seal or saran wrap, something like that. But look, can you see that even with all we've just done to that, do you see how we have that nice rounded center on our sunflower? I mean, it's really an attractive cookie pop. This is a perfect size for kids at parties too. Now, if you're really worried about the kids getting into this, I totally would go with straws. They already make green party paper straws. I would put it in after the cookie's out of the oven on a 1-inch center. Yes, get the jar and just buy a pack of 3 of these. I don't know where I got these. I probably got them at Hobby Lobby, but I got a pack of 3 for like, it was $5 for 3 of them, and I had a coupon. So I put this in here myself by just making a parchment funnel. So just buy the small jars. You don't need a big, I've had this a year and been using it consistently. No, I haven't had this one a year. I've had my Diamond Dust a year and I've been using it consistently, and you can see how full that jar is. These are the same size jars. This I just got in. It's still totally full. I mean, it's full up to the top. So a little goes a long way with this. Isn't that pretty? If you have any tiny people that you want safe glitter for, you can definitely doll them up with this. Okay, what was I telling you about this? Okay, what was I telling you? Oh, another way to paint that. Oh, and I was saying, if you think kids are going to be consuming the majority of these, and you see that it's in my throat because I'm talking while it's in the air. So it's already attacked me. We had a glitter attack. Jeremy missed it. The straws, I'd use the paper straws. They're in the party aisle at Target and Walmart. Get the ones that are green, or the green and white stripe ones are super cute. And the way that you'll work that out is by cutting it to the length, right? Like cut the straw in half or maybe third it, but not smaller than that. And then when the cookie is hot, keep your cookie. Let me show you a trick for that, just to help you out a little bit if you decide to do that. When your cookie comes out of the oven, and of course it won't be this small size because this will crack, okay? But if you're using a 1-inch or 1.5 inch or 2-inch even to make this cookie, what I'm about to tell you will work because I've tested it. So while the cookie's hot, a double layer of disposable gloves, hold the cookie in place. Take your straw, and after you've cut it to the appropriate length, squish it on the end, just like as if you had chewed it, so it gets a flat, straight line. And then what you can do is use a sharp knife or your scissors, just something handy that's sharp, and start your hole on the cookie. When the cookie's hot, If you take scissors and do it just like this, it cuts right through the cookie so that you have a little bit of an opening there. And then keep this flat, hold your finger on it so you have pressure holding it in place, and insert that straw. Now, you have to then let that sit till the cookie is totally cool. And it is more difficult with the straws than it is the toothpicks because you're trying to secure a larger area. Oh, you know what? I'll put that up while I'm talking to you real quick. I see what you guys are doing. Hold on one sec. I forgot to put that up, but I know it's super handy, and we have so many people signed up now. So we have text alert for anytime I go live. And I also try to send out alerts for Marlon and Han and Amber when they go live, whether it be on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, whatever. When I know they're going, I send an alert for them too, because I know you guys like to follow them. So go to this phone number, the 540-870-0726, and type live stream or sign me up. Either one will take you to the group that's for the live stream. Okay. So I'll leave that in the video so you can come back to it in just a second. Okay, so once you've put that straw in, you need to let this completely cool off, because when your cookie is warm, it's still kind of fragile. It's very important you do the straw right away, because the straw, for sure, you can't go back and make work later. The cookie will be too solid by then. It's still a little bit pliable and malleable when it comes out of the oven. So getting the straw in it, if you don't want to bake it in it, it does work fine baking it in it, and it comes down far, your petals come down far enough off from the cookie onto the straw that even if it browns a little bit around the straw area, if you bake it in the cookie, even if it browns a little bit, you won't see it. You can cover it with icing. Okay, so there's a trick to use the straw. We've talked about the toothpicks. Now let's come back really quickly and let's do a couple green leaves, and then I'm going to let you guys go. And also, if you want to, you can visit my coffee site. That's my artist site. It is where we get most of the support to continue with the live streams. So you can purchase templates on there. My sugar cookie recipe is on there for sale. My royal icing recipe. They're very easy, basic starter recipes that you can manipulate by changing your flavorings and how much meringue powder and whatnot. But it works great. They're great basic recipes to get you started if you're thinking about diving into sugar cookies. That is also a site where you can just buy me a sweet tea, a donation to help me keep going on my live streams. If you ever want to send us a tip or a donation, they're always much appreciated. We're using them all to keep the live streaming and the cookie part of this going. So that's on there. You can catch that later on the video. All of the live streams for, I think, about the last 6 weeks that we do. There's supply lists on there for everything we do on the Tuesday live streams. All right, we're going to do, let's see, where's that cookie at that's wet? Okay, so these 2 cookies that we just did, right? Let's go ahead and add just a couple leaves. So easy. Bag is cut the same way. We've got this cool green color. We go to the back of the cookie. We attach to the cookie. Super important that this is a good consistency. I'm letting that part kind of come a little bit over the back of the cookie because we need something to secure the sides to the back, right? So this is how we accomplish that. And you can make your petals all different sizes. And do you see how it looks just as good on the front as it does on the back as far as how we're piping? And then what I'm going to do is use that to just attach another petal. If my icing is thick enough, if it's the proper consistency, you see that hasn't even moved. So then I can come over here and I can add another petal underneath and really get it to look like a sunflower would look. Now tomorrow when this is dry, you can actually continue to work down the stem of the flower if you want to. I don't think you need a whole lot more than that, but I think that looks really attractive. If you want, you can come up here and build your petal a little higher. But look what you can do with this. And wouldn't these be beautiful little tea party roses or ranunculus flowers if you piped them right on top and then added some petals on the back? This is like a perfect surface. Just think about this like you're working with a flower nail, right? Anything that you could conjure up in your mind on this flower nail, you could do on this. And if you don't want to pipe from the side, you know, like I'm holding a pan of Jiffy Pop popcorn here, the way I have this. you could always do a little bit of royal icing and attach your cookie to this. Let me set this down so I can show you what I'm talking about. You can always just put a little bit of royal icing on here. Now, I typically use a piece of two-sided tape. I attach my parchment, a little parchment square. Then I put this royal icing, and then I attach the cookie, right? That way I can just pull the royal icing off and let it dry. But you could pipe all of those flowers on the top of this and then just grab your parchment and pull this cookie off, okay? I was not prepared to show you the two-sided tape thing tonight. We'll do that another night. But super easy, so much fun. You can get super creative. We managed to get a little bit of candy into this video, and we managed to get some diamond dust, and we made cute little flowers. I mean, these, come on, these are adorable. These are going to be so pretty. Can you imagine this in your backyard for the 4th of July? Like a red and white check tablecloth. One of the bright ones, not one of the pastel. Get a real red, like a red and white. Maybe have some baskets out there as bases for your food platters or whatever. Have a couple of these set up to make it look like your centerpieces, but they're actually cookies. You could do a larger cookie on a full-length straw and then have smaller ones if you want to control what the kids have. The other thing I'm going to try soon is I'm going to make these pops like cookie ice cream cones. So I'm going to see if I can make that work, because I want to, I want a little bouquet of those. I think for like 4th of July, red, white, and blue, and the candies that you could put on that would be so much fun. All right, so that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for coming back and joining me again. So if you have time, if you're on YouTube, my sister says to say, smash that subscribe button. I have no idea what that means. So just click whatever you have to click on there to subscribe. I'm sure that means something to someone. Go to Facebook, like our page, or follow it, whatever you're set up to do. And what's the other thing? Oh, Instagram. Instagram is really growing for us. So we might start streaming a little bit on Instagram at random times to try it out. So make sure you're on that page. All that information, if you go back and watch the video, that's all in the little ticker thing going across the bottom. Somebody dropped a link in here. You can go back and watch that tutorial for the 3D balloon cookie and how to make a wafer paper balloon. So you've got that too. And you've got the link to the coffee shop. If you ever want to purchase anything on there, usually there's a supply list and royal icing transfer templates are what I typically keep on there, but there's some recipes on there. Soon there's going to be a shortbread recipe on there. I have been playing with shortbread flavors, and I'm almost ready. I tend to tinker with a recipe for a little bit longer than the average person before I release them. But I hit this super buttery, flaky. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful shortbread and a couple variations of it. I'm going to be dropping that into the coffee group probably next week, because it was like 3rd try and I was like, I'm not changing anything. This is perfect. So thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend. And thank you guys for jumping on with me again tonight. And we'll see you soon, okay? Bye, guys. Have a wonderful night.